and welcome to another episode of the Reignmakers Fantasy Golf Show presented by DraftKings Reignmakers. My name is Cupe. I'll be your host, and as always on Mondays, we've got our recap and preview show. We'll be recapping what was the RBC Heritage, all of the drama that occurred there, and also previewing this week the Zurich Classic, which has some fun team wrinkles, a little bit of an interesting event on the PGA Tour. But first, with me as always on Mondays, I have the boss, TJ. How's it going?
Going well. Another fun weekend of golf. Definitely seeing the fruits of these elevated events, designated events, whatever we're calling them. Another just absolutely jam-packed leaderboard on Sunday, leading to some playoff hole golf between guys that are just both absolutely striping the ball and not really making any mistakes out there. So ton of fun. And yeah, I think you can really just see the excitement of these designated events when you get all of the top golfers playing together. You're just going to get more consistently loaded leaderboards on Sunday, which leads to an overall fun viewing experience, and then in turn a fun Reignmakers fantasy golf experience. So excited to be talking through all of that today. And as you said, a super unique event in the Zurich Partners coming up this weekend. So that'll be definitely a bit different in a lot of ways in terms of Reignmakers play. But yeah, as always on Monday, ready to break it down and talk some golf.
Yeah, let's do it. A lot to get to. I'll start by saying completely agree with you. I don't want to debate ad nauseum how we got to the designated events. The PGA Tour continues to change whether they're calling them designated or elevated. I believe they've settled on designated, but I don't want to debate how we got to the designated events. But my goodness, when you get stacked fields and great weekend leaderboards, it produces incredible results. We get a 4-hole playoff to end the RBC Heritage between none other than two absolute ball strikers over the weekend. Jordan Spieth, who did it completely differently than how he has done it more recently, and Matt Fitzpatrick, who goes on to win, captures the tartan jacket, an event that by all of his own standards said that was his number one event to win outside of the majors. Grew up here on this course, coming to this course with his family, so was on his bucket list to win. Wins it on the 4th playoff hole by hitting a 9-iron to literally 1 foot. I thought it was going to go in. Incredible shot from him. And yeah, we're going to get to all of that. Let's start with Fitz. I mean, he is fully healthy and playing some of the best golf that I've seen him play since the US Open. He gets his 2nd PGA Tour win. He absolutely flushed it with his irons all week, gained 10 plus strokes ball striking, gained across the entire bag. And man, he shoots his career best round on Saturday, 63 on Saturday, bogey free 63 to get into the final pair and lead the tournament going into Sunday. But he comes out sort of malign on Sunday, lets Spieth recapture the lead. And it's not until the 15th, 16th, and 17th hole that he gets back into a tied position. Actually had a putt on 17 from probably about 10 feet to take the lead. Misread that putt, hit it pretty poorly, makes his par, and then gets into the playoff. And man, he narrowly gets the victory because Spieth, another guy hitting it perfectly all week, had a 12-footer on 18 that I'm honestly not sure how it didn't go in. It was pretty much a perfect putt, catches the right side of the hole, almost as best of speed that you could hit it, just doesn't fall in. He certainly thought it was going to go in, and then also misses a 9-footer on 17 on the 3rd hole, the 3rd playoff hole that, you know, you characteristically don't think Jordan Spieth is going to miss both a 12-footer and a 9-footer in the playoff. So a little bit unlucky for Spieth there. Luckily for Fitzpatrick. And then on that 4th playoff hole, I mean, he just absolutely flushes a 9-iron to a foot. Spieth had to go after that. Couldn't hit a shot on top of that shot. Ended up leaving himself with, 25 plus feet, a little off the green. Couldn't make it. And Fitz taps it in for very well-deserving victory.
Yeah, what a great finish. Comes down to the putter at the end, as it often does when you have the elite golfers going at it. Whoever's going to be able to roll in those putts, especially rolling in the putts on Sunday, especially rolling in the putts on Sunday down the stretch. We saw them play 18, three times in a matter of few, and they're perfect drives every time, all the way to the end of the fairway, right in front of the hazard, and then just a matter of who can stick it close and make the putt. So, yeah, agreed. Fitzpatrick, just really a solid golfer. Always was a solid golfer. Definitely over the last year or so, made very intentional changes to its game in order to hit the ball further, as many people on tour have. You simply need that 300 plus length on a consistent basis in order to compete in these more stacked field events. He gets it done. Jordan Spieth had his chance. Definitely was looking for some Spieth magic, expecting him to chip in or do something crazy, but just didn't quite happen. And another fun element for me as well is two guys that were featured on the Netflix show Full Swing. So I'm watching it on Sunday, and my girlfriend still doesn't care about it, but she at least knows who Fitzpatrick is and knows who Jordan Spieth is because of the Netflix show that we watched together. So yeah, overall, just excited about where the state of the game of golf is. And it's awesome to have the Masters be followed up with another event that has some big names in it and has some excitement. Of course, you're never going to match the Masters or, that true hype that comes around the majors. But I think that compared to past years, I mean, it's just not even close in terms of the quality of players that were at the RBC Heritage. And as we always see, whenever you have that strength of field, the cream rises to the top. And I mean, you look at that final leaderboard, you've got Fitzpatrick, Spieth, Cantlay, Schauffele, Thigala, right? Like that's the top five right there. All super stud golfers and an up and coming one in Thigala. You have Scotty Scheffler in the mix. You had John Rahm doing his classic, like, played horrible and finishes T15, right? I feel like him and Scheffler are always in that camp. If they don't play well or don't putt well, they only get 10th and 15th. So I know we're going to talk about Scotty a little bit, but yeah, fun to see. Loving the designated events, and for sure the most memorable RBC Heritage for me in many years.
Yeah, a couple quick things to wrap up the conversation on Fitz and Jordan. Fitzpatrick went 63 out of 63 on putts inside 8 feet. Just an absolute display with the putter the entire tournament. And when you do that, when you gain ball striking like he can, when you're making putts inside 10 feet, I mean, you're going to be in contention to win tournaments and give yourself a heck of a lot of chances. So, yeah, and the couple of putts that he missed coming down the stretch honestly must have been from 9 to 10 feet. So that's the 8-foot stat there, because he missed a couple of 9-footers that were just poor reads, and he was a little bit dumbfounded. Like I said, gets a little bit lucky. So I think that was an incredible stat for the week. And then Jordan, I wanted to just hit on the fact that Jordan is absolutely flushing the ball. Unfortunately, not in Reignmakers, so we aren't able to use his cards. But in terms of daily fantasy golf and other types of formats where you are playing golfers, I mean, nobody's current form is really all that much better. Even the likes of Rahm and Scotty is much better than Jordan Spieth over the course of the last 5 tournaments. He did it exactly opposite as he typically does it. Typically, we think that Spieth hits the ball all over the place with the driver and with the 3-wood. He uses his exquisite short game to get up and down all over the place, make birdies, chip ins, and run up the leaderboard. But honestly, hit the ball incredibly well at the RBC. Really seems to like this golf course. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him take a little bit of time off. He did come in saying he was a bit tired after the Masters and want some changes in the schedule, but man, he didn't look tired out there. It looked like he was, roaring and ready to go. So I'm excited to see him take a couple weeks off and come back for, maybe an event before the PGA Championship. Maybe he comes back cold to the PGA, but it's going to be fun. And when Spieth is in the mix, golf is just a better game to watch. He's one of the most polarizing guys in the game, most interesting guys in the game. So it's fun to have him fully back and hitting it well. All right, let's hit on a couple other key guys. I'll say a couple things on Rory. As we talked about last week, we did expect some withdrawals coming into this field. It was such with it being a designated event, a lot of money on the line. Rory seemingly the only guy to withdraw, and I won't speculate too much here. I think Rory, as everyone that knows golf knows, needs the Masters to complete the career Grand Slam. Clearly the tournament he wants to win the most, comes out pretty flat at the Masters, misses the cut, and golf is a huge mental game. So I assume that he had put himself through the ringer the week of the Masters, missed the cut, needed sort of a bit of time with his team to regroup. And frankly, while I think he cares so much about the game, cares about the pit money, I'm not sure it's the top of the thing for top of his mind for Rory McIlroy, worrying about, if he's gonna make pit money. Now, does it look great? No, it doesn't. It doesn't look great for the guy who was wanting to get the best players in the fields together, 8 to 10 times per year. It doesn't look great with him withdrawing, but I'm giving Rory a pass here for a tough week at the Masters, and looking forward to see what happens when he comes back and when he plays next. Like I said, the PGA Championship only 5 weeks away, and will he play another event beforehand? It will be interesting to watch and see. Anything on Rory for you?
Yeah, a bit of a bummer to see him not tee it up, but as you said, can't blame him too much. I'm curious to see how it evolves over the course of the season with these commitments that guys have made to these designated events. If we see the norm become that it's okay to withdraw for them, if you see people taking more of the Jon Rahm approach where he won the Masters and came out, said, I made a commitment before the season that I was going to play this event, so I'm going to go play this event. And I also loved his comment around not just thinking about the commitment he made and about the fans, but about the kids watching. And if he was a kid, he'd want to see the Masters champion out there competing the next week. So just another check mark for me in terms of the reasons I like Jon Rahm box right there. And, I think he came out, had a relatively flat Thursday, but ended up turning it around and shooting under 70 for each of the remaining 3 days. So good to see there from Rahm. And yeah, with Rory, it's just going to be kind of a wait and see. Can't be super concerned about him. I mean, still certainly a top 5 golfer in the world, always has that upside. Haven't quite seen the performance play out on this side of the pond, at least. Had some success over in Europe prior to this PGA Tour season beginning. But yeah, I'd say that's kind of wraps up my thoughts on Rory. I still have a Rory rare card in Reignmakers. Have no plans to do anything but continue to fire that into events over the coming weeks and hope that that upside comes to realization. And I have a feeling that it will.
Yeah, I completely agree. One other comment from me on Rahm. Incredible to see him jump into the booth. He even said, this isn't my professional job to announce golf, and then he proceeded to basically break down every shot that all of the leaders made on 17 and 18 and give just about as good of insight as anybody could possibly get. I love that the PGA Tour continues to lean into this, the player walk and talks, the getting in the booth, the being personable and showcasing their personality both on and off the course. Just incredible entertainment, in my opinion. So it was really cool to see him do that, and awesome to see him break down shots that basically went exactly as he thought they would go. So that was fun to see. And yeah, like you said, doesn't play very well, which everyone can kind of understand, on Thursday, and then ends up finishing T15. About the lowest of low for Rahm is T15, frankly, when he's playing even remotely close to his best golf. Just an incredible player on an incredible run. All right, let's pivot to Scottie Scheffler, who I think is a very interesting golfer to talk about right now, because he's got to be in one of the strangest places in golf, where the hardest spot on the course for him is 8 feet to the hole with the putter. He absolutely stripes it all weeks, gains 9 strokes, which all came from ball striking, approach, and off the tee play, but loses over a half a stroke putting, and essentially still right in the mix with everybody at the top. If he ends up figuring out this putter, which I'm certain he will do, he has the ability to win by 10 plus shots on just about any golf course, against pretty much any field, frankly. He just hitting the ball so pure that as soon as that putter turns around, it's going to be really hard to chase down Scottie on the leaderboard. What are your thoughts on Scottie right now?
Yeah, it's one of those trust the process kinds of things. When it comes to golf, putting is always the most variable thing from week to week, from round to round. Scottie can go out one week and be the worst putter in the field. He can go another week and be the best putter in the field, right? But the guy that's 100th in driving distance is never going to show up one round and lead the field in driving, right? So that's why, we always kind of zoom out, take a look at the ball striking, the driving, the approach game. Those are the stats that are really going to be translatable and predictable from week to week. The putting's hard. It's as simple as that. And you can look at all of the strokes gained and lost putting stats. Another one of the facts of the matters is that you can't lose that many strokes putting if you don't have that many opportunities to make those 8-foot birdies. So it's frustrating. I'm sure it's frustrating for Scotty as a golfer. It's frustrating as a fantasy golf player when you're rostering someone that is constantly missing these 5, 6, 7, 8-footers. But we've seen that, there's not a large sample size that says Scotty is not a good putter, right? Like, he's won on tour many times. He can roll them in with the best of them, has one of the best short games on tour. So for me, it's just a matter of staying the course. And also, Scotty seems like one of those kids that doesn't get too mentally rattled. So I'm not really worried about this getting in his head and him trying to change a bunch of things. I'm sure that he views it as the same way we do. Just going to keep doing what I'm doing, going to keep preparing the way I prepare, going to keep hitting the ball the way I hit the ball, and the putts are going to fall in. And when they do, Scotty Scheffler's going to win another golf tournament this year, another 2-3 golf tournaments this year. So, yeah, I mean, Scheffler and Rahm are really separating themselves as a cut above the rest of the PGA Tour, I feel like, because, as we said, when they play well, they win. If they don't play well, they get somewhere in 10th to 15th place, regardless of the field strength. So not too worried about Scheffler. Definitely something worth keeping an eye on and something to be aware of as you're thinking through him, but always going to be an instant lock in the captain spot in pretty much any tournament that he's teeing it up on for the rest of this PGA Tour season.
Yeah, we're going to get into some interesting conversation here about contest selection across the core, rare, and elite contests and what we saw last week. But I completely agree. If you're holding a Rahm, if you're holding a Scheffler, you should be jamming them into the captain spot. But which contest should you be jamming them into? We will get to that. Last player I want to cover, Patrick Cantlay, finishes third again for the third time. I mean, he just loves RBC Heritage. His game is perfect for this place. You don't need to be long, but he is long. You need to hit irons great, but he hits irons great. Pretty much does everything perfect around this place. And when he gets here and doesn't hit a shot or two, wayward, and makes a few putts, he's going to win an RBC Heritage at some point in time over the course of the next couple of years. I firmly believe that, just because his game is so perfect here and is such an elite player. But let's just get out in front of it. I mean, Patrick Cantlay is absolutely a slow golfer. He goes through the rhythm. He's on social media everywhere nowadays because it's just so popular to dunk on golfers for slow play on social media. And he's slow. He absolutely violates the rules. He plays slow to a T, and he continues to play slow. And until the PGA Tour decides to enforce these slow play rules, he will continue to do so because there is absolutely no penalty for it. I thought it was insane that there were multiple times he took over a minute to hit like 3 and 4 foot putts. And then, frankly, what was the biggest eye-opening thing to me was in the playoffs when Spieth and Fitzpatrick dropped Cantlay. I mean, it was like watching speed golf. It was totally insane. Fitzpatrick had a 35-foot putt to essentially where he needed to make it because Spieth had 12 feet on 18. And I think he took less than 30 seconds to eye up the putt and let it rip. And Cantlay takes over a minute to hit a 4-footer that it is still in regulation. So, I mean, there's guys that just play quick. There's guys that play slow. He's one of those guys that plays slow. There's nothing that's going to happen to him for playing slow until the PGA Tour decides they want to enforce it. But I will say this. I mean, one parallel that I like is the new baseball rules are incredible. The pitcher only has so much time to pitch. It's an entertainment product. Things are moving. There's always something happening. And I think golf will eventually get to a spot where they need to enforce these rules a bit more than they do right now. But until they enforce it, it just won't happen. And Cantlay will continue to do what Cantlay does. Any takes on Cantlay and what your thoughts are on slow play and the PGA Tour?
I thought his tweet was pretty funny where he got the hole in one and he tweets out playing faster and a picture of or a video of him getting the hole in one. So clearly he's hyper aware of the perception of him and hyper aware of the social media chatter around him. And he simply doesn't care. Right. So I kind of respect him for that. He's going to keep playing his game and play within the rules. That said, I do think it's an inevitable evolution of the game that some kind of pace of play gets added in here. You just referenced the baseball rules, and I think that that has gone very well to start off the season here. Games are taking a lot faster. They're a lot more entertaining to watch, a lot more reasonable to watch, reasonable to go to. Certain things you just don't need that much time for. You see it in poker as well. In high stakes poker tournaments, it's common to have a shot clock where people have a certain amount of time to make decisions. They have, little chips that they can use when they have a big decision to use more time. It has to be something that the PGA Tour is talking about behind closed doors, looking into, thinking about. But that said, it's probably going to be a long process. The PGA Tour, more so than anything else, is a very, very traditional organization. The traditions of golf are very important to them. You see it in a variety of ways with some of the various rules and what does and does not get enforced. But I think in order for golf to get to the next level of popularity, the pace of play thing is certainly important. I mean, I guess the one argument against it relative to baseball, right, is that it doesn't really impact the viewing experience that much. Like, for the most part, if you're not on golf Twitter or following social media, you don't really know that this slow play is going on because they're able to kind of dodge around it from a TV coverage standpoint. So that's one element of it too. But agreed that it seems like it's going to continue to be a thing. And back to my original point about Cantlay tweeting it out, it doesn't seem like Patrick Cantlay is going to get shamed into playing faster. So, it doesn't, that does not seem to be a thing that is going to happen. But man, it's a lot more fun to watch. Like you said, those two guys in the playoff hole just going up and hitting the ball. I feel like Koepka and Rahm were playing the same way, both playing super quickly at the Masters last weekend. And yeah, I wish Cantlay would play faster. But also, like, you can go back to videos from 2019 of Cantlay sitting over a drive and doing, like, no joke, 50 waggles before he hits the ball. So it's not a new thing. It's just, I think, getting now that more mainstream attention, largely because of what happened at the Masters last weekend, and then following it up again by being in the final group this week.
Yeah, and when you're in the final group, you're just on TV way more often. Therefore, like you said, the viewers are watching pretty much, every one of your shots when possible. But Cantlay does make it pretty tough. I agree. I wish he would play a little faster, but I also agree he will not play any faster until he's forced to. And shout out to him. There is a player improvement program money, PIP money on the line, and some of that is social media engagement, and that had to be probably Patrick Cantlay's best tweet ever. When you when you make an ace, when 90% of the comments are going to be like, the only way you can play fast is if you hit it in the hole with your irons. I mean, shout out to him or his social media team. I actually can't believe that Cantlay was behind that tweet, but if he was, incredible troll job. If he was actually, crafting that from the locker room with his two thumbs, saying that was that was his tweet that he thought up. All right, I think we spent enough time on the golfers. Oh, sorry, one more comment, and you alluded to it. I think it is relevant. It is also relevant for this week. Sahith Theegala, there was a lot of question marks for me, at least. Was his Sunday round at the Masters, was he going to be able to use that as momentum and carry it forward? He's in another designated event at the RBC, and he certainly does. He plays an incredible round, top 5. His game is coming around. He's played really, really well on the PGA Tour. His confidence has to be sky high. He comes into a field at the Zurich that is not as strong as some of these other designated events he's been in. He's with Justin Suh this week, which we'll get into, who has been playing really good golf. So I think they are a little bit of a dark horse. They're outside of the top 3 or 4 groups that could win this thing, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Sahith continue to play well. And I think he's a really fun golfer to watch. He's someone who I've got my eye on as someone who's going to make his mark here on the PGA Tour at some point in time this season. All right, some quick Reignmakers facts related to contests this past week for RBC, and keeping an eye on this going forward. Shout out to the Discord guys who've been calling this out, who've been tracking a lot of this stuff. We're trying to get into more contest type information and details to try to give you insights into what you might want to be doing in terms of contest selection. So for core, rare, and elite contests, I pulled the cash lines for guaranteed contests, single entry contests, and pack party contests. Very interesting nugget. In core and rare, the cash line for single entry was higher than the cash line for guaranteed. Two things I think happen here. One, there are less spots paid in single entry versus guaranteed, obviously. But I think that proportion makes the cash line go up. But also interesting to me was the top tier golfers, Scotty Scheffler, Jon Rahm, Patrick Cantlay, Collin Morikawa, they are being rostered more in the single entry from a percentage owned perspective than in the guaranteed contest. So in core, guaranteed cash line was 395.5. Cash line for single entry was 467.5, and the pack party cash line was 353.75. But the ownership at core for single entry for someone like Jon Rahm or Scotty Scheffler, Rahm 20% owns and Scheffler 18% owned in core. In core guaranteed, Rahm only 14% owned, Scotty 15% owned. So we are seeing people jam their best plays into that single entry contest versus trying to say, I'm going to make multiple teams with the best players at the guaranteed level, because you can make multiple lineups. So I think that's interesting to keep in mind going forward as we do contest selection for these next couple of tournaments. For rare, the cash line was as follows.
Is that so with those players too? It's probably also, there's got to be a function of supply in there too, right? So like if I'm a whale and I'm only playing one lineup in the single entry because I can only play one, I want to play my Jon Rahm there, or one of my Jon Rahms there. If I'm playing 50 lineups in the guaranteed, I'm not going to be playing Jon Rahm in all 50 of my lineups. So there could be an element there too of like, there's only a finite number of Jon Rahms and Scotty Schefflers and whoever else out there in existence in the Reignmakers game. And then it's like, okay, well, how are the people that own those allocating them? And I feel like, yeah, it'd be curious to know if like, okay, these people that are playing Rahm in the single entry, is that the only Rahm that they have, or they have 15 Rahms and they're playing one of them in the single entry and 14 other in the guaranteed? I know we don't have the answer to that, but it's really insightful for sure. And actually kind of aligns to what we see in DFS as well. Typically in DFS, in single entry contests, you actually see the quote unquote best plays get inflated ownership relative to the 150 max entry tournaments. And so oftentimes it actually pays. So like, it's kind of funny, right? You think about a small field tournament in DFS or in Reignmakers, your first instinct is, oh, I have to beat less people. So therefore, I should just play the best plays because I don't have to get that different. But in reality, if everyone is going in that direction, now the best plays are actually 30-40% owned in DFS compared to 20% in the big contest. And sometimes in these single entries, it actually makes more sense to go more contrarian. So it's kind of like a little bit of this brain pretzel, but it's something that I've noticed in DFS as a trend over the past like year in particular in both golf and NFL. And it's going to be good for us to keep tracking and keep an eye on that in the Reignmakers game too. And really, you know, because you can't approach every contest the same, right? Every contest is definitely unique. You have to look at it in the context of the field that's playing in a given tournament, in the context of the supply that's available for each of the golfers. But yeah, just kind of some additional thoughts there, and how, while at first that's like shocking to me, when I think about it, like 2 or 3 levels down, it actually aligns pretty closely with what we see on the daily fantasy sports side of things.
Yeah, so well said, man. I couldn't echo and add any comments that make more sense than what you just said. So well said. I'm going to jump to rare because I want to get to elite, because I think that sort of circles back to your comment about, you know, whales and do you have multiple Rahms and multiple Schefflers. But rare, guaranteed cash line 400.5, single entry cash line 441.5, pack party contest 312. Incredible dispersion there between the single entry and the guaranteed compared to the pack party. We saw a little bit closer dispersion from Guaranteed and Pack Party and Core, but in Rare, a bigger dispersion there. I think Pack Party continues to be, as I looked at ownership, a spot where people are just throwing extra cards. It is a spot where everyone's just kind of playing extra cards. I think that's pretty sharp. I think the field is pretty sharp there. That's probably what you should be doing. But I think if you're someone who's looking at these pack parties and you maybe need extra elite cards and you have a strong rare team, putting a strong rare team into a pack party contest to try to land an elite pack at the top of that contest is pretty interesting to think about. So I think that was pretty unique. But I want to get to my point. An elite, it flips. An elite, it flips to sort of the more natural logic that you called out. Elite cash line for guaranteed contests was 440. Cash line for single entry was lower. It was 427.25, and pack party all the way down to 303.25. So at elite, I think number one, there are less John Rahms, there are less Scotty Schefflers that you can play there. There are rares that you can play, but you can't play those rares at captain. And people think, oh, well, if somebody has an elite Scotty or an elite Rahm, they're playing them at captain, and maybe I can't beat them, right? I can't beat 1.5x Scotty score just a Scotty, right? I need to make that up in too many ways. So I'm now not playing maybe some of my rare cards that are the Scotties, that are the John Rahms up in elite. I might be playing them at captain. So I think that is an interesting thing to think about. But the other element here is the cash line for pack party. Again, pretty big dispersion between the guaranteed line and the single entry line. I basically tried to play I was going to play single entry this week. I was going to play I had two elite teams to play. I was going to play guaranteed and then single entry. And then I switched. I decided to play pack party. Wouldn't have cashed in the single entry, did cash in the pack party, but then landed Eric Barnes. And I think that's, something to just think about when you are playing the pack party contest. Your outcome is you're gambling on what you might get in the pack party. I still think it's a smart play. I still think it's early enough in the season. You're trying to add to your collection, but in terms of trying to liquidate Eric Barnes for real money, probably pretty difficult for me to do. I'm going to look at trying to do that just to see and test the market and see what is out there. But I believe when I looked, his low ask was $32 or something around those lines. And frankly, I bet there's not many sales at that low ask. I just don't think Eric Barnes plays a lot of events. When he does play, they're going to be lower prize pools. So I don't see that many people going to the marketplace to shop for somebody that's going to be that far down on the odds board. So we'll see. But I think those are interesting nuggets that I wanted to call out, and we'll continue to try to get insights into contest selection. Shout out Berg in our Discord, shout out other members in our Discord that are grinding these kind of questions. And I'm going to go through this on Wednesday in a bit more detail, taking a look at the numbers for the Zurich and trying to pull out the insights that I think might make sense for how you should attack contest selection for this week. Okay, we're 33 minutes in. We haven't talked to Zurich at all. Let's quickly pivot to Zurich. A very interesting event on the PGA Tour. It is a team event. So the first thing to note is DraftKings came out earlier today. It's Monday. Contests are just opening up. You cannot stack players that are playing together. So in this team event, there are two golfers that will play the event together. Some of the top golfers are playing together. Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele are the defending champions. They are back playing together. Max Homa and Colin Morikawa are playing together. They're probably the second favorite. Billy Horschel and Sam Burns, Siwoo Kim, Tom Kim, Sahith Theegala, Justin Suh. You cannot stack up two golfers in one lineup. So essentially, Patrick Cantlay, when you play Patrick Cantlay, he will get the same amount of points as Xander Schauffele if you played Xander Schauffele. They will essentially be an equivalent golfer. So we're going to see much higher ownership this week on some of these top pairs because there's two sets of people that count for the same score. I think that's just important to note and important to kind of understand going into this event. All right, another thing I wanted to cover is what the heck is a team event and what the heck is the format of all of this stuff? Why are they playing together? How are they playing together? Why does it matter? So there's 81 teams of two in the field at the Zurich this week. They will play 2 rounds. Round 1 will be better ball. You might be asking, what the heck is better ball? Better ball is essentially each player plays their own ball, and the score that the team records on a given hole will be the best score between the two. So if Cantlay goes out and makes a birdie and Xander goes out and makes a double bogey, it will not matter that Xander made a double bogey. They will get a recorded birdie as their score for that hole. In round one, the pairings will play better ball. In round two, they'll play what's called alternate shot. And this is a lot different than better ball. This is every golfer only playing every other shot. So if Cantlay tees off on hole number one, Xander will then hit the second shot on hole number one, and Cantlay would then hit the third shot, and Xander would hit the fourth shot until the ball is in the hole. And then they will repeat in the next hole. So the alternate shot has a very interesting angle here, and it creates a lot of even more variance than we typically see in golf, because you're just hitting a shot, every other time, and you're hitting whatever shot your playing partner sort of puts you into hitting. So I think it's very interesting. It's going to be a very fun event, but I would say, my 2 cents here is it's going to be very hard to beat the elite of the elite in this field. It would be pretty shocking if someone takes down, someone from, deep into the middle of the field takes down the likes of Cantlay and Schauffele or Morikawa and Homa. So I think the winner will come from sort of the top echelon here, maybe the top 5 groups. But I think as soon as you get beyond these top 5 groups, it's where you really want to just play for variance. You're kind of betting on the cards that you have. It's really hard to pick who might get hot, and you're sort of just embracing variance, and you're playing the cards you have, and you're sweating the leaderboard as much as possible. That's my take on something like the Zurich. But TJ, interested in your thoughts or anything that I might have missed to sort of set the stage for the event?
Variance is definitely the name of the game here, similar to the match play where it's kind of hard to predict what's going to happen. I'd say this is even more so the case. You've got different pairings of golfers playing together. You got different format of scoring now in the Reignmakers game, where people are going to be scoring points for shots that aren't even theirs, because if their partner is carrying them, they will still get their partner's points effectively. If one golfer is carrying their partner, it doesn't matter. They don't get any extra points for that, right? So, you've got, what's an example? Siwoo Kim and Tom Kim playing together. They're the same golfer in terms of Reignmakers this weekend. Definitely different in terms of how you think about things. I think for me, this week is a week where I'd just be approaching the game and the contest with the collection that I already have. As we know, I like to play the marketplace a bit week to week. I don't know that this is a tournament that I'm necessarily going to go out of my way to make any marketplace purchases for. I'll, if I need to fill out some lineups, I'll definitely do so in that case. But for the most part, not necessarily looking to over anchor on this week, just because it is so unique and so different from anything else that we'll see. That said, there could be some golfers that maybe are undervalued price wise this week because they're paired up with a golfer that's better than they are, right? So if you have the opportunity to, get access to Sam Burns through Billy Horschel kind of thing, right? Because the two of them are playing together. And that's the other thing of shopping on the marketplace, right? Is identifying which is the cheaper of the two golfers that are playing together, because there's, at least in the short term, not any point in buying the more expensive one. Obviously, then you get that golfer for future weeks, but you can kind of get the cheaper access point for each of those. But yeah, for the most part, just going to be having some fun with this one this week. Going to be putting to work the collection that I already have, and probably spend some time later this week looking ahead to the next week or two to see what we have coming beyond the Zurich, and doing some planning ahead from a marketplace standpoint.
Yeah, after the Zurich, we have the Mexico Open, and then we have the Wells Fargo. The Wells Fargo is an elevated event, so we will see a deluxe prize pool there. For the Zurich this week, we have a premium prize pool. It's not quite a standard prize pool all the way down at the bottom. It's premium, $275,000 in total going out across the contest tiers. I think you want to definitely look at the marketplace and look at the cheaper guys. Think well said. I think a lot of people will go out and notice a name like Joel Damon as an example, or a name like Sanjay Im and be like, oh, I kind of like betting on Sanjay Im this week because the field is weak. They won't maybe necessarily say, okay, Sanjay's playing with Keith Mitchell. What's the price of Keith Mitchell? I'm going to get Sanjay through Keith. So I think that's an interesting angle to play. And yeah, I think it's an interesting week to try to just embrace the variance, put as many teams together as you possibly can with your collection without going crazy and spending in the marketplace, unless you're really buying for future weeks. If you're buying for future weeks, then I think it could be a good time to add to your collection. We do have a pack drop this week of note. The approach packs will drop. It will be golfers that are in this field. I believe DraftKings has made an exception that there will be less stinger packs, so less legendary packs based on demand that they've seen over the course of the last couple of weeks. But what they did say is they will be adding an approach pack drop to the PGA Championship, I believe, which is going to be pretty fun. So we're going to be taking a look for the CSVs. I believe actually as we're recording this at 2:49 p.m. on Monday, the CSVs just came out. So look for our pack page to get populated with the information and with the data for which golfers are in these approach packs. Take a look at that expected value. Take a look at the pack simulator to give you a good outcome or a good idea of the range of outcomes that you might be getting in this pack. But, I think one thing is for certain, based on last week's pack drop, you'll be able to buy a pack. If you're interested in adding to your Reignmaker collection, you'll be able to buy a pack. I do think still for $24, the rare pack is an interesting one to take a gamble on. Beyond that, I think the price point varies based on how much you plan to play, what your current collection looks like, but there will be a pack drop available. So I just wanted to make sure that we noted that. The last thing I have here, and something I'll definitely be covering on Wednesday's show, there are 118 Reignmakers players in this field. Like we said, you can't stack the players together, but I think trying to break down those pairings where you might be getting a value, maybe there's a couple middle tier pairings that I think could fare pretty well, where it may make sense to make an investment if needed. The likes of someone like Taylor Moore, who's playing well, plays with Matt Neesmith. You might be able to get a little bit of upside there. I think you're also looking for kind of recent form here, who's been playing well recently, who sort of embraces this team aspect. Is there, narrative street for guys that know each other, or what are the reasons why guys are playing together? So we'll be kind of diving into that a little bit more on Wednesday's show. But TJ, not sure if you have a favorite pair. I guess maybe let's take a look at the top and see if there's any reason to not, or which pair do you like, I guess, out of the top 4 or 5 here?
It's so hard to not go with Cantlay and Xander. I think it's, they're just the best golfers in the field and they're playing together, and they already won this last year. So that they have good chemistry for whatever reason. I mean, just two very, very solid golfers. Morikawa and Homa, I would say, is the obvious next pair that's close to them. It feels to me like those two groups are kind of in a tier of their own, at least from a talent standpoint. And it's almost like with the partners match that there's less variance at the top there, right? Because the chances of one of them birdieing any hole is going to be that much better when compared to the other ones. And then when you get into the alternate shot, it really all becomes about kind of eliminating the big misses and eliminating the big numbers and the big mistakes. So hard not to like Cantlay and Xander at the top. I'll go with them as the chalk as my number one selection. But then I'm also intrigued by the Kim pairing. So Siwoo Kim and Tom Kim. I feel like that's a group that could do some damage. I feel like they have kind of two different games in a way. Siwoo Kim is a bit more of a high risk, high reward golfer, whereas Tom Kim is a bit more like steady. So I think that meshes well from a partner's gameplay standpoint. So I'll go with them as kind of my quote unquote dark horse, if you will, still in that top echelon of groups. And then if we look down the board further here, give me Joel Damon and Denny McCarthy. Joel Damon, someone that always has kind of that upside and has a ton of talent as a golfer. Denny McCarthy, aka Denny McPutts, always someone that can roll it in from anywhere, which I think is useful in a partners format and useful in an alternate shot format. So I'll go with those 3 as mine, but it really is hard to go away from the Cantlay Xander pairing. And I think I saw someone say they're 3.5 to 1, which is outrageous if that's really what the odds are. Someone in chat said that. I did not verify that myself, but I believe it because they really are the class of this field.
Shout out chat, keeping us updated here. I mean, it is very hard to go away from them. You stole my thunder. Very well said on Siwoo Kim and Tom Kim. I love Siwoo. I'm going to keep staying on the Siwoo train. He has, eagle and birdie upside and just about every pin. I don't think Siwoo's ever seen a flag that he hasn't just taken dead aim at. And Tom Kim can absolutely just make pars when needed. So I think good in this format. I'll give one other pairing that I think is pretty interesting. Way down the board, but playing pretty good golf. Wyndham Clark and Beau Hossler. Beau Hossler kind of coming back to life a little bit. I like the two of them. Wyndham can basically bomb it with anybody on tour, hits it just about as far as anybody, especially just about as far as anybody in this field. So you're going to have distance on your side there. And Wyndham, the kind of golfer that can make a lot of birdies, but also make double bogey or triple bogey here or there. So maybe Beau picks him up. But basically, you're going to need a ham and egg kind of pair. And the Friday and the Sunday rounds, watching alternate shot is when you're going to run into the most chaos, and that will provide the most fun for the viewing experience, the sweating experience. Alternate shot is just a fun format in general to play. And then when you watch the best players on tour try to play alternate shot, play together, talk about team chemistry, things like that, I think is part of some fun elements of golf. So I'll break down more of the pairs on Wednesday. Would love to know who you guys like. I think this is the kind of week that if you got a gut feel on a guy, if you've been bullish on a guy, you want to jam him into your lineup, jam him into that captain spot, go crazy, because just about anything can happen outside of the top 3 pairings, I would say here.
Agreed. All right. Should be another fun weekend of golf. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and make sure you tune back in on Wednesday for Cupe solo show. I know I tuned in last week and there was some Matt Fitzpatrick alpha dropped on that show. So make sure you're tuning in, because Cupe's got the takes. He's gonna be spending the next 2 days really diving into everything, breaking down all you need to know for the Zurich, writing his article. Definitely tune into that Wednesday show. Super, super valuable. And we just get a lot more information between the time we record this one on Monday and, where things sit on Wednesday. So make sure you check that show out.
You're making me blush over here. Man. Yeah. Like what you said there, just trying to follow up TJ's 2 winners in a row from the past couple of weeks. We'll see if he can stay hot. Nothing like picking the absolute chalk, but hey, when the chalk hits, you can get paid. So yeah, shout out you all in the chat. I'll see you guys all on Wednesday. Appreciate everyone listening here. Look for more information about the in the article tomorrow that will drop, and then Wednesday solo show. So until then, thanks for listening, and we will talk to you guys next week.